What's up, New York Mets Nation, and welcome to the Batcave. On this episode, I'll be taking a look back at Game 3, and the Mets pulling out a great victory, slapping the Phillies around a little bit, and we'll take a look ahead at tonight's Game 4. Can the Mets finish the Phillies off, send them home, and move on to the NLCS? So we'll be talking about that and whatever else you guys want to talk about throughout your comments, questions, opinions, whatever. I will return in 50 seconds. Mets Nation, and welcome to the Batcave. I'm your host, the Bat Fry, Kenny Fry. And, of course, like it is every Wednesday, you know what day it is. It's Hump Day. Hump Day! What? Hump Day! There it is. It's all downhill from here, baby. Love Hump Day. You gotta love Hump Day. If you don't love Hump Day, that means you're working the weekend or your week is just getting started work-wise or whatever, or maybe you have some sort of personal vendetta against Wednesday, in which case you have other issues. So before I get this show rocking and rolling, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by our good friend, your good friend, everybody's good friend, Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. You can reach Big Al at 1-800-HURT-123. That's 1-800-HURT-123. Jason Fine specializes in motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, workman's comp, and personal injury claims. He has 3 office locations conveniently located throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. His office in New Jersey is located in Cherry Hill on 3 Greensward Lane, and the phone number there is 856-209-5258. And in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, his offices are located at 500 Grant Street, Suite 500, or Suite 2900, and the phone number there is 412-365-8151. And in Philadelphia, his offices are located at 1628 JFK Boulevard, Suite 2120. The phone number there is 267-888-2980. And be sure to mention Out of the Box Sports sent you. So that's 1-800-HURT-123. That's our boy, your boy, everybody's boy, attorney Big Al, Jason Fine. All right, there we go. Got a comment here before I kick her off, and of course it's our boy, your boy, everybody's boy, Yuki Matsui, knowing it's Hump Day. Absolutely. What's wrong with the Phillies? I expect more of a fight. They seem rusty. Absolutely. It's one thing I talked to with a couple Philly fans at work last night who are still holding up the good fight for the Phils, which, I totally understand. And it's something I mentioned on my Facebook page last night, my personal Facebook page, that the Phillies are not dead until the last out. And I thoroughly believe that. I believe that last night. I believe that every game that the Phillies play in, not just against the Mets, but any game the Phillies are playing, as long as they still have one out, they're still alive in any game. And that in part means that they're still alive in any series. So I'm not getting too overconfident or too hype about where the Mets sit right now. I am excited, but cautiously excited. And I'd much rather cut the head off the snake tonight than let that go to a Game 5 and have to go back down to Philadelphia amongst that the Red Sea, basically that they have in Citizens Bank Ballpark. you'll watch it on television. And I said it before. I said it the other day. It's very impressive the way the city, the crowd gets up. The Philly fans get up for their team especially when it comes playoff time. It's like none other. You see, I mean, the Mets fans last night, they did show up and they did show out at Citi Field last night, but it's still, it still falls short of what they do in Philly. And I don't know what it is. It's very impressive. It is impressive. I will give them that. And but our fans were awesome last night. And you know what? Whether or not it's rust, and again, getting back to my point, I talked to a couple of people at work about it last night. It could be something that Major League Baseball looks at next year is that bye week for these top seeds. I mean, it seems to be year in and year out the top seeds struggle to get out of their first round, which is the NLDS, and then move on. So, like, is there really an incentive to finish first or second, to have the best record or the second best record in either league, American League or National League? If you're getting that week off and you're going to come out and play like crap, you lose all sort of momentum that you finished the season with. You guys are healthy. You have your pitching staff kind of lined up the way you want it to be lined up. The pitchers are rested and stuff like that. But when they come out cold, it's a short series. It's a 5-game series. You can lose yourself really, really quick. You got to figure shit out really, really fast. And it seems to happen every season since they started doing the wild cards, since they started doing the 6 seeds, basically. Where 1 and 2, they get off the first round, and it's almost a week before they play again. So, some of the things that we talked about last night at work was, do they make these NLDS a 7-game series? Do they do that? Do they force the wild card teams to have shorter rests? Like this year, it's hard to get any shorter rest than what the Mets had this year, where they were supposed to have off that Monday, go into the wild card Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the winner of that series has off Friday, and they start the NLDS on Saturday. Well, with this past year, the Braves, Mets, of course, if you're a Mets fan, and even if you're not, you probably know that series with the Braves was rained out. It had to be a doubleheader, had to be made up on that Monday, so there's no rest before the end of the season into the wild card. Do they do something where they move the NLDS up, where there is absolutely no rest, where the wild card teams must play up until the start of the wild card series and then straight through? I don't know if that's an option. Another option that my one coworker brought up to me was adding 2 more seeds. It's going straight up 8 seeds. That way everybody's still playing. You have your 1 versus 8, your 2 versus 7, and so on and so on. And that, for me, that probably be the most likeliest thing to happen. That way Major League Baseball gets a couple more teams in there, which generates more interest in teams, through fan bases and such. And so that brings more money into Major League Baseball's pockets, more money into more revenue into the pockets of these franchises, these clubs, these owners. So that appears to be the most likeliest scenario that could happen. And when that could happen, I don't know. I think they should implement something like that next season because it's not working out for these top seeds at all. I mean, none of these series are over yet, but the way some of these teams are playing, it feels over. The way the Dodgers have not really shown up against the Padres so far, and that series sitting at 2-1. Padres are ahead. Who else we got there? We got the Tigers playing the Cleveland Guardians. I think that's sitting at 1-1, as well as the Yankees and Royals sitting at 1-1. So I mean, we'll see what happens with those games tonight. Which way that goes. If that goes in favor of your top seeds, or if that goes in favor of the lower seeds who've been playing straight through. We'll have to see what happens, see if that narrative continues or not. So, Well, it very well could be rusted, and it also could be that the Phillies haven't playing their best baseball the second half of the season, or even down the stretch. It just I don't want to say they ran out of gas. Injuries involved, and just guys underperforming, and guys working through some things, and it just the first half of the season they were the best team in baseball. They absolutely were. I said it on here that the Phillies won the East back in May, and that was it. I think the closest any team got might have been the Braves, like 5 games or so, and it still felt a lot bigger lead than 5 games. It never felt like they were threatened, and that could be another thing that hurt them. They've been on easy street for a long time here throughout the season without being pushed, without being tested, without having the pressure of losing, or having to fight for that playoff spot. That's another thing that you can look at, and as potential reasons as to why the Phillies have not shown up yet. And I say yet because, again, like I just said before, it's not over till it's over. It's not over till that last out is done, and we have Edwin Diaz pumping his fist, or whoever pumping their fist, and the rest of the team meeting them on the mound, celebrating. So it's I don't think that anything's a given. I don't think it's a given that the Mets are going to win the series now because they're up 2-1. But you got to feel good about it. You have to feel good about it. It's just that I'm that cautiously optimistic, that cautiously, excited kind of like, I'm not screaming out my window, hip, hip, hooray. I am like, in the bathroom hiding, by the closet yelling hip, hip, hooray. Just, once it's done, then it's done. Then I will yell out my window. Got a couple more comments here. Red October has become a cab cunt October. I don't know what the hell cab cunt is, but I don't know if that's a different shade of red or something. Enjoy the golf course Phillies. Again, Yuki, you got to wait till that last out, brother. Joe Sullivan from the Sully Squad. Talking Philly sports. They're on Mondays at 6 p.m. He said, you guys got us, Ken. Mets seem hungrier, are definitely much more hot. I'm holding out hope, but you feel you guys have us. And, Joe, I said it probably since June, where this Mets team feels like the 2022 Phillies, and that's kind of how the 2022 Phillies ran through the playoffs, is that the other team felt like there was no hope. There was, the Phillies, 2022 Phillies were hungrier than every other team that they faced until they got to the World Series. And it's not even that they weren't hungrier than the Astros. The Astros were just a really, really good team that year. I think most years, that they won the World Series or made it to the LCS or World Series, the Astros, have been a pretty decent team for quite a long time, cheating or not. But yeah, the Mets are definitely hungry. They've caught fire at the right time, which is the running joke about the Mets, especially from Phillies fans, is thus, don't worry, the Mets will choke, come August, September, and that's it. And that hasn't happened this year. Now, there were some points in September where you could say that the Mets starting to choke, but, they've been resilient. They've been able to bounce back and turn things back around, get things right back on track. And there's a reason why since May 30th, this team has the best record in all of baseball. There's a reason. They simplified things. They found the right pieces to fit in the right spots. You can look at Mark Vientos being called up and getting that everyday job at third base. I took a little bit for him. Starting off down in AAA, being called up when Beatty, I believe, was hurt. Getting that walk-off home run in St. Louis, I believe it was. Then being sent back down to AAA right after the walk-off homer. Brett Beatty is absolutely struggling, looking hideous at third base and at the plate. Causing Vientos, who was killing in AAA, to get that second opportunity, and he hasn't let go of it. He absolutely took it by the throat and choked it and made it his. He made it his. That's his spot now. That's there's no reason to think that Mark Vientos will not be there next season. There's every reason to believe that he's our future third baseman, and I think he's played a hell of a third base. So there are moments where he doesn't look the greatest, but there's quite a few moments where he saved the Mets' ass over there, where he's made a nice play and he has a terrific arm. So you can look at Vientos, you can look at Iglesias. He brought it from AAA, kind of being used as kind of like a spot player. Moving Jeff McNeil to the outfield for defensive purposes, or somebody's injured or whatnot. And moving Iglesias over to second base. They've been moving Iglesias over to third base, but he's been absolutely awesome all season, hitting around 370, 380, somewhere around there. He's been outstanding this season. At the plate, in the field, he's been outstanding. And his I guess battle cry or whatever you want to call it, the OMG, his Candelita, his song that he made, and I guess there's a record. I'm not going to buy his record, but I'll listen to the song because I'm a Met fan here. I'm Mr. Met. I am the Bat Fry, and this is the Bat Cave, and we'll listen to it. I listened to Timmy Trumpet, 2 years ago, and even though it's not my thing, but I still listened to it. I still got into it. I still I didn't do that stupid ass thing that the Mr. and Mrs. Met would do with the fake trumpeting, where they'd go down and go up and then go down. And go, that stuff drives me nuts. I didn't do that. But I bobbed my head a little bit to Timmy Trumpet then, when the Mets were rolling in 2022 until they weren't. And this OMG song, it's in my head. It's in my head a lot. At least the small part of it that I understand is in my head. Oh my God, that part. You know what I'm talking about if you heard it. And it's just there's so many different things. The starting pitching staff, figuring it out. The beginning of the season, not looking the greatest. A lot of the starters not going very deep into games, going 4 innings or 5 innings, and that's about it. Getting our bullpen overtaxed, just getting wore out early on. But they figured it out. Sean Manaea figured it out. Severino's been fairly solid for most of the season. There's a couple stretches where he hasn't looked very good, but for the most part, he's been very good this season. We lose Kodai Senga in spring training. David Peterson's on the injured list. At the beginning of the season, he comes off. What are we going to get from David Peterson? We got a hell of a season from David Peterson. He had I think an ERA just above 3 or just below 3. I think his record ended up being like 9-3 or 10-3, something like that. He had a hell of a season for a shortened season. Absolutely. Oh shit, I can't think of his name right now. Quintana, there we go. Jose Quintana, going through the trials and tribulations of a long season. That guy, he started off okay at the beginning of the season, and he hit an absolute rough patch where everything else seemed to be turning right for the Mets. He was going way wrong. He was going way south. I even said that they should DFA him. They should ship him off. He's washed. He's too old. He's just getting clobbered. He figured it out. He became a pitcher. I don't want to compare him to Greg Maddux because he is obviously not Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is one of the all-time greatest pitchers to ever play the game. But he's learned to pitch. He's learned about locations, speeds, and stuff like that. He's become a cerebral type pitcher instead of just a thrower. And it's been phenomenal. It really has. Tylor Megill hasn't been great this season, but there's been times where he's looked very good, especially when we called him back up late in the season here to help out with some issues we had in our starting rotation, and to take up some starts to give some guys some extra rest. And it's worked out really, really well. So it's you can't say enough good things about this team. Everybody's come together. Pete Alonso's really struggled this year by some people's estimations. Me again, I say it here: if struggling is hitting 240 with 34 home runs and almost 90 RBI, I'll take a struggler. Then I'll take that struggle every year. For me, struggling is hitting 200 with 15 home runs and 35. That's a struggle. That's a struggle. Hitting 30 plus home runs, hitting 240, which was 20 plus, 20 around 20 points higher than what he did last season. And yes, obviously the home runs and the RBIs were down, but still, that's still a pretty good season for about 90% of the major leaguers. So, that's being picked up by the rest of that slack was picked up by Vientos, and looking at Francisco Lindor, starting off the way he did, first month and a half, just looking absolutely awful. People are, for crying out loud, sending his wife death threats, where I came on here and I had to ridicule Mets fans for being jackasses, morons, for sending, Francisco Lindor death threats because he's hitting, below 200. They get a life, guys. And here he is. He turns it around, and he's our MVP. Technically, I think this was I don't know if it was Frank the Tank that brought this up, and love Frank the Tank or not. I do. I like Frank. Frank was on the show once before, and wasn't my best show, but it was a show anyway. And I had Frank the Tank on here, and I think I don't know if Frank said it or not, but I'm going to give him credit anyway. But he said, I think it was him. He said, you look at Shohei Ohtani, he is, the best player in baseball, or best player in the National League, at least, at the very least. Some may say Judge is the best player in baseball, but he is the mop. He's the most outstanding player. But the most valuable player has to be Francisco Lindor. You take Shohei Ohtani off the Dodgers are still a playoff team. I have no doubt. The Dodgers are still a playoff team without Shohei Ohtani. Are they the number one seed? Maybe not. Are they still dynamic? Not as dynamic, but probably still really, really good, dynamic offensively. But they're still a playoff team. You take Francisco Lindor off of the New York Mets, they're down their leader, their captain. He's, grown leaps and bounds in that role. From the time that he came with the Mets, where he's flipping off the crowd with what the hell's his name? I can't think of his name right now. It doesn't matter. He's gone. He's long gone. They're flipping off the crowd or whatever they were doing, and from going to that to going to just being the unquestioned captain and unquestioned leader of this team, and it's amazing. And then seeing what he did offensively, carrying this team on his back. Thank you, Yuki Matsui. You're right, Javi Baez. I was thinking it was an S, but like there's no S in this guy's name. Like, what the hell is his name? Javi Baez. Thank you. If you have never seen the show before, this happens to me a lot. I'm very forgetful. I can't remember stuff. But just carrying this team on his back at points of the season, offensively come with big hit after big hit, and his play as shortstop has been outstanding, absolutely, crazy outstanding. And then you come to the end of the season where he gets hurt, he misses 9 games, and you think it's all going to come crashing down for the Mets. But this team is resilient. This team was able to bounce back. They call up Ronald Acuna Jr. and or Luis Angel Acuna Jr. Luis Angel Acuna, I got them all mixed up now. I got all the Acunas messed up. Luis Angel Acuna, they bring him up, and he's outstanding. He did a great job, picking up the slack for Lindor at shortstop and at the plate. He was a charge there at the plate. Those games that Lindor missed, and Lindor comes back. He obviously does not look 100% at times. Like watching him last night in the dugout, he didn't look like he was playing at 100%. In my opinion, he'd be sitting there and the head's down. And, for me, knowing the feeling of having a sore back or a hurt back, that's how I would sit if I had a sore or hurt back. Kind of just stiff, hands on the knees, kind of leaning forward a little bit, just trying to get any kind of pressure off of your back that you can. And that's what it looked like Francisco Lindor was doing. And he's still going out there and looking absolutely amazing. Getting a big hit there near the end of the game. I think it was the 8th or 9th inning. 8th inning. It was the 8th inning. Getting an RBI double. Or it was RBI double or single. I don't remember exactly what it was. I'll go through it here in a minute. But it's just the resilience of this team, the bounce back, the never quit attitude. They're never out of it. And that's what this team brings to the table. And that's how another reason why I compare them to the 2022 Phillies. That team was never out of it. That team, they felt like they were down. And then all of a sudden, 1 or 2 big home runs or 1 or 2 big hits to the gap. And all of a sudden it's pandemonium again. It's like the Wild Wild West again. So it's you see a lot of similarities there. And I could keep going on and on with all these different players that have done outstanding things, like Tyrone Taylor, he's played great down the stretch. Starling Marte, on the injured list, not on the injured list, back on the injured list, off the injured list, playing, like just a role value. He's not an everyday right fielder, and still coming up with big hits, some decent fielding. Brandon Nimmo, looking great in the first half, struggling the second half, but again, being picked up by his teammates. And now in the playoffs, he's looking fantastic as well. Kind of figured things out since getting to the postseason, or even since the Braves doubleheader, even since then. So, all right, I kind of rambled on there for a little bit. Let me get through a couple comments here again. Joel Sullivan says Phillies took their foot off the gas pedal and they can't get the edge back. Yeah, and that's something I mentioned a few minutes ago. Is that the Phillies were kind of on easy streak for most of the season because they won this division all the way back in May. They started off like a bat out of hell. They got a huge lead, and they were the best team in baseball. And after that, kind of eased into the postseason here. They weren't ever really tested. I mean, the Braves and the Mets. I think the Braves got within 5, and the Mets got within 6. Maybe or something like that near the end of the season. But you never really felt like they were going to overtake the Phillies. So I think that's a big part of it as well. Hey, Alan Hedeman, Mr. Met. There we go. He says, hope they finish the series today. Offense, pitching, and the crowd need to show up tonight. Absolutely. Al, you were at the game yesterday, according to your pictures on the Facebook. And it looks like you had a great time. How was it there? Was it electric? Was it loud? It sounded loud on the television, but sometimes it's really hard to tell. And there's another guy I know that was also there, and he had some video from the game, and it sounded like it was super electric, very loud, and a ruckus type crowd. So thanks for checking out the show, Al. Thanks for commenting. I appreciate it very much. Tell all your friends. Yuki says, Mark Shohei Vientos. Yes, absolutely. Mark Vientos is like the East Coast Shohei Ohtani kind of, different nationality and everything. I'm not sure exactly what nationality Mark Vientos is, but it's definitely not Japanese, and I believe that's what Shohei Ohtani is. I could be wrong. He's Asian. He's definitely Asian. I believe he's Japanese. Javi, yes, and a Javi Baez. I forgot about that. All right. So looking at last night's game, the Mets were able to power past the Phils with a 7-2 win, and I would lie. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was nervous through a large portion of that game. Pete Alonso gets up in the second inning and hits that opposite field home run, which is great to see from Pete. That's his third opposite field home run, which we've heard this stat probably a million times since last night now, but I'm going to regurgitate it again. It's his third opposite field home run in the playoffs. He only had 4 opposite field home runs all this season. Out of his total, I believe, was 34 this year. Only 4 of those were opposite field, and so far he has 3 in the playoffs. And we've said this before many times on this show, and it's been said on many different times on different Mets podcasts. I know for a fact that CP from the CPNY Sports Network, Chris, I believe he's on the the Mets Roundtable or something like that. He's mentioned it a bunch of times about Pete not going opposite field. Pete's pulling everything. Like I said, I've heard it on Locked On Mets. I've heard it on so many different Mets podcasts about Pete not utilizing right field. When Pete's had really good seasons, where he hit home runs in bunches and for the most part was a viable power threat for a full season, he utilized right field a lot. Right field, right center, and he seemed to have gotten away from that a bit last season, maybe half of the last season, and for all of this season, basically, only 4 opposite field home runs overall this year during the regular season. He kind of gotten away from using that opposite field, and here we are. Pete's back to doing that, and he's looking really, really good at the plate. There was a time, I can't remember if it was last night's game or the night before. I want to say it was last night's game where he struck out and Nola was pitching him inside, and Pete wasn't biting on it. And they were strikes. They were legit strikes. And there was the one Pete struck out on looking, where he kind of looked back at the umpire and kind of jawed at him, but it was a strike. According to the little box there on the television, that was a strike. He got the bottom part of the zone at the knees. Got a big chunk of the plate, but Pete's looking outside because he's looking to drive the ball opposite field. He's looking to take the ball that way now. So it's good to see. It's good to see that he's not just trying to pull it. And he is laying off some of those breaking pitches. He did have an ugly swing last night on a curveball. But that's after seeing a couple fastballs. You kind of get it. He's looking for that outside pitch. He sees it coming, and either he misread it or he's just really bad at swinging at breaking balls. I don't know. But he looks silly swinging at that one. But I really like Pete's approach at the plate right now. He was 1 for 2 last night with that home run, and he also reached base on a couple walks, which is fantastic as well. Get Pete on base. And let the guys behind him, try to knock him in. Like I said, Iglesias has been, phenomenal at the plate this season. Jesse Winker, JD Martinez, I know those guys have struggled second half, but so far in the playoffs, JD a couple hits, Jesse Winker a couple big shots. And these guys are producing right now. So Starling Marte at the bottom of the lineup as well, near the bottom half of that lineup, producing. Al says, it was really loud there last night. It was the best crowd I've seen at any ball game. Can't speak for everyone there, but I lost my voice. Fantastic. That's great. Great to hear, Al. I am super jealous. I went to school with Alan. Good guy, good dude. And I am super jealous. I would have loved to have gone either last night or tonight, or even to the games in Philly, which, I would rather go to the games in New York, but if they advance, maybe I'll look to see if I can get to an NLCS game. But with the price and stuff like that, I have a hard time justifying spending that kind of money for something that's just for me. So, but maybe there'll be a shooting star or something I can wish upon. We'll see what happens. It was really loud there last night. It was the best crowd I've seen. Okay, just a repeat. So Sham and I looked fantastic last night. He looked like the ace that he's been the second half of the season. I mentioned on yesterday's show that he had a few starts down the stretch that were okay to good. Nothing really fantastic. He wasn't shutting teams down like he was for a large portion of July and August and months like that. And but he was still pitching okay. I think he had one clunker near the end of the season, but that was about it. But giving up 2-3 runs an outing, and so still getting deep in the ball games. Well, last night it was the Sean Manaea that we all come to know and love. He was outstanding. He was able to move the ball around, up the zone, down the zone. He had them guessing a lot of times. He had them looking a couple times, and there were a few times where the Phillies did hit the ball very, very hard, but they hit him right at people. So overall, last night, Manaea, where do I have his stats here? 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 91 pitches. He pitched into the 8th inning. He got 1 batter in, and he gave up a hit to third base. And this is where one of the things that I don't like. I understand why they do it. But they do their defensive substitutions there at the end of the game, especially when they feel like the game is in hand, or if the Mets are up by multiple runs. Now you're playing defense, just getting out of there, trying to cut down on any potential runs through errors. There was a ball hit to third base, like a bit of a chopper, took a bounce, and Iglesias mishandled it. Mishandled it, tried to get him at first. Throw was late, wasn't even close. I believe he threw it. Maybe he didn't even throw it. I don't remember now for sure. But I look at that and I'm thinking to myself, if Vientos is there, an everyday third baseman, he might make that play. He may not be the best defensive third baseman, but I think he's an all right third baseman. He's not the worst third baseman, but he's not the greatest. But there's a really good chance I think he makes that play because he's seen that play a myriad of times. It's hard to go from one position to another position, especially in the middle of a game. Playing second base, playing a different area of the field, covering different acreage. If that's if that makes sense. And then going to third base, and now you're in a different part of the field with a smaller acres. You're covering the line now, and a whole bunch of different things. It's a longer throw. I just feel like it's a lot harder than it seems. I think it just if you just leave Vientos where he's at there, I think he makes that play. And who knows? Maybe Manaea gets through the eighth, and he has 8 innings pitched, and we save our bullpen a little bit. But he gives up that hit. They bring in Maton. And for whatever reason, Maton seems to be struggling. And I know they talk about he's a heart rate guy. He keeps his heart rate down. He's cool under pressure. It doesn't really matter if you're giving up hits and walking people. So you can be cool under pressure all you want. But he gives up the run, lone earned run for Sean Manaea, the inherited runner when he came in, and he also gave up another run in the game as well. And I can't remember if that was a run that Maton gave up or if that's a run that when Stanek came in, Stanek gave up an inherited runner. I can't remember that for sure if that's what it was or not, but it doesn't really matter. So rewind real quick. When the Mets were up 1-0, and you get that a huge Jesse Winker hit. Also in the second inning. So after Alonso hits that home run, you have Iglesias comes up. He gets on base. I want to say with a single, there's a single or a walk. Obviously, he's on base. He's on base. Winker comes up, absolutely shreds a ball. He crushes it. I thought it was a home run, off the bat, but it wasn't. Castellanos, runs back. He's able to make a decent catch against the wall. A very good catch. Actually, I said to my daughter, "So that's a good catch." But in the transfer, he drops the ball. Now, if you watch it in real time, it looks like he just drops the ball after contact with the wall. But when they show it in slow motion, they review it. Okay, it kind of looks like he lost it in the transfer. And, I think that was a legit out. I really do. And, that forced Iglesias to go back to first base. That was, Jesse Winker out. But then it's 1-0. And I kind of started, thinking about back to that Zach Wheeler game where Zach Wheeler pitched phenomenal for the Phillies. And all the Phillies could get him was that one run. Was the Schwarber home run in the first inning. And I'm thinking, man, if we go through this game late in the game and the only run we have is that Pete Alonso home run in the second inning, I feel like we could be in some trouble. And so then Jesse Winker comes up in the fourth inning, I believe it was, and absolutely crushed the ball, upper deck. And I said it in yesterday's show again when I was reading off the starting lineup. I love Jesse Winker in his starting lineup. He brings attitude. He brings charisma. He brings a different type of swagger to this team. And again, did not play great down the stretch. He's dealing with a stiff back, hurt back, whatever the hell you want to call it. But he brings something else to this club when he's in the lineup. So I really love when he's in the lineup. And he produced again last night. A huge home run out to right field there. Upper deck, and the emotion going around the bases, and then after stepping on home, getting the team fired up and stuff. Awesome, great stuff from Jesse Winker. I love it. Starling Marte knocked in 2 with bases loaded. Bases were loaded with no outs, and that's when the Phillies went to the bullpen. So that's when Nola was pulled out. Overall, I thought Aaron Nola pitched a decent game. It wasn't the best Aaron Nola game I've ever seen, especially in the playoffs. Usually he is lights out in the playoffs or near the end of the season anyway. But he ended up pitching, I think I have it written down here somewhere, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. So at that point, with the bases loaded, it was at 2 earned runs. And I don't remember if he left with the bases loaded or not, or if the bullpen loaded them. But there was definitely so there was 2 of those runners were his. So he gave up 4 earned runs. So 2 of those runners were his, and 1 went to the bullpen. So there was bases loaded, no outs. The Mets have to get a big hit here. They have to get at least more than 1 run. Because you figure they're going to get a sac fly somewhere. Well, it doesn't happen. They get I think it was a fly out to left field, a shallow fly out. Nimmo bluffs the tag up. So I believe that was the first out. And then the second out, I think, was was a grounder. Or this might have been the first out. It doesn't really matter what it was. Yeah. This was the first out of the inning was a grounder to second base. Second baseman bobbles it, but he's still able to get Vientos at home with the force at home. Then there's the fly to left field where it wasn't quite deep enough for a sacrifice. Nimmo kind of bluffed the run. But yeah, he would have been toast. It seemed like the throw might have been offline. But JT Realmuto is an athletic catcher. He's a terrific catcher, one of the best in the league still. And there's a chance he might have had him. And I don't really want to risk it. Still having some clutch hitters coming up to the plate, and Starling Marte is one of those clutch hitters. He comes up and he knocks in two runs in. There's another 2-out hit for the Mets, big 2-out hit which brings in a couple runs, and that makes it 4-0. Seventh inning, Jose Iglesias gets up. I always call him Julio. I don't know why. I don't know. He comes up. He knocks in two on a single. I think the Mets might have had bases loaded again there. Yeah, they did. They had bases loaded again. There was a throw home. It was I think it was hit to right field. Throw home. Gets past Realmuto. I think it hit the mound or something like that. Hits something. Bounces over Realmuto. So Pete comes racing home, which is the right call. Absolutely. That was my first thought as soon as it went over the catcher's head. Go. But it hits that brick wall and bounces right back to JT, and easy out there. Pete was tug out a couple feet in front of home plate, and that got the Phillies out of the innings. But now the Mets are up 6-0, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling comfortable, especially with the way Manaea was pitching. And like I said, he goes out there, he gives up that he allows that first runner to reach base. I think it was on a single, and they pull him, and the bullpen comes in. Maton struggles a little bit. Stanek gets out of it. Stanek comes in the ninth, shuts the Phils down in the ninth. He's all jacked up, pumped up, and the Mets are 7-2 winners. It's awesome. I can't say enough about it. Lindor also had a double to knock in J.D. Martinez. That made it 7-2. Maton went 2/3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He also allowed an inherited runner. That was the 1 earned run that Manaea had against him. Stanek, 1 1/3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. He looked good, I thought. Mark Vientos again, 2 for 4. You can't say enough about Mark Vientos. Awesome job. Phillies bullpen, which again, it's really surprising. 3 innings pitched. They allowed 4 hits, 3 runs in 3 innings. The Mets are able to get to that bullpen again, and that's through 4 relievers. Kerkering, Alvarado, who I thought Alvarado was looking good when he was throwing, hitting 100, 101. And after he got hit in the foot with that line drive, he wasn't the same pitcher. He allowed a couple hits after that, allowed a couple base runners, and it was downhill for him. They pulled him. They brought Ruiz in, and then Estevez to finish it off. So yeah, terrific win. The Mets are 1 win away now from moving on to the NLCS, where they'll see the winner of the Padres and Dodgers, which, the way the Padres are rolling, very well could be the Padres. They were hot as shit too going down the stretch, just like the Mets, playing great baseball going down the stretch. And that's a scary lineup and a scary pitching staff and a scarier bullpen. They made a ton of moves there at the trade deadline, the Padres did, to shore up that bullpen. And it's a good one. It's a very good one. So tonight's game, which I believe is a 4:30 start, which is stupid. It drives me insane. 4:30. What is that? Let me double check to make sure that's what it is. Phillies at Mets, 5:08. 5:08 start. I guess the broadcast starts at 4:30 for whatever channel it's on, TNT, ESPN, FS1. It doesn't matter. But a 5:08 start. Tonight's starters, you'll have Ranger Suarez, who in the regular season was 12-8, 3.46 ERA, 1.20 WHIP. If you remember back early in the season, Ranger Suarez was fantastic. Best pitcher in baseball early on, first half of the season or so. He was phenomenal. He really was phenomenal. And it has not gone his way the second half of the season. I don't know what happened to him. I don't follow the Phillies close or not, all that much to really say what happened to Ranger Suarez, but he has not been the same pitcher. The last time he faced the Mets was on September 21st. He won 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts, and I believe that was a Phillies loss. to the Mets. I don't remember the exact score. It was 6-3 maybe or something like that. But he'll be squaring off against Jose Quintana. Now, there was some talk if they'd hold off Ranger Suarez and start Zach Wheeler on short rest. And my thought is with that is have confidence in Ranger Suarez. If you're Rob Thompson or whoever's making the decisions, have faith that Ranger Suarez is going to come up big and pitch like the Ranger Suarez from the first half of the season. You have no confidence that he can do that because you haven't seen it, but show him confidence that you can do that, and then you want to save Wheeler for Game 5 because if you don't have enough confidence in Ranger Suarez to throw him in a elimination game in Game 4, why would you have any confidence in throwing him in Game 5? Or would you go Christopher Sanchez, or would you do like a straight up, Rangers going to go 1 or 2 innings, then you're going bullpen, or you're going Christopher Sanchez? Then I just don't think it makes any sense to go Zach Wheeler in Game 4. I think you save him for Game 5. And trust your team to get you there. And facing him for the Mets will be Jose Quintana, who's 10-10 on the season, 3.75 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. The last time he faced the Phillies was on September 13th. He went 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 4 strikeouts, and was awesome. So, much like most of his starts down the stretch, he was fantastic. Just like here in the playoffs, his outing against the Brewers, awesome, absolutely awesome. All right. I don't think they released the starting lineup yet, but I do expect probably JD Martinez to start tonight against the lefty Ranger Suarez. I don't think they'll have Jesse Winker face the lefty. Let me see if they have the starting lineup released yet. They may. I can go ahead and read that off here. Not yet, it looks like. All right. Let me look up on X real quick, because sometimes they'll have it on X first. Search. I like looking up the SNYs when they have the starting lineups out. I like that. Yeah, so far no starting lineup for tonight's game on SNY. It is Starling Marte's birthday, so we got that going for us now. How about that? So yeah, let me double check the Mets X page, make sure that's not on there. No, nothing on there either. So we don't have the starting lineup yet, but like I said, I expect it for the most part to stay the same, except for Jesse Winker. I'd expect him to also keep Tyrone Taylor in the starting lineup, and I'd also expect Francisco Alvarez to still be behind the plate catching. So I don't expect him to put Luis Torrens in or anything like that. So that's it. It comes down to this. The Mets, they can close out the Phillies, and I'm a firm believer in once you have, I don't know if this is a great analogy or not, if it's appropriate or not, but once you have that blade to the head of the snake, it's best to cut it off. It's best to slice it and cut it off, or however you want to say. You have your foot on the head of the snake, and it's time to apply the pressure, and finish it off. Whatever it is, it gets you to the same point that I'm trying to make here. You gotta finish them off here. I don't want the Mets to have to go to Philly. I don't want to give this team any sort of momentum or any kind of hope. You're strangling right now. You have the noose tied around their neck. You're tightening it. Now it's time to cut off all oxygen, all air supply, and finish this team off. Send them back to Philadelphia alone, and let's celebrate. So that's all I got to say about that. All right. So with that being said, my schedule for me, I'm going to be on again tomorrow morning with the Bat Cave. I'm going to push back my Silver and Black Layer LA Kings edition. I'm going to push that back a little bit. Tomorrow is opening night for the LA Kings, so I will get it on before opening night somehow. I'll get it out there somehow. And but tomorrow morning I will be live again, 10 a.m. with the Batcave, hopefully in a jovial mood once again. That the Mets have moved on to the NLCS, and we can all celebrate together. And so tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Batcave once again, talking New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies, and then a quick glimpse into the future, whether it's a Game 5 or an NLCS matchup. And also, like I said, tomorrow I'll figure it out. I'll get the Silver and Black Layer on there somehow and talk LA Kings. And then Friday morning, I'm going to do the Silver and Black Layer Raiders edition and talk about right now the bane of my existence, the Las Vegas Raiders. There's not enough anger that I can spew or portray right now to really let you know how I feel about the Raiders right now. It's just I used a lot of profanity on Sunday to describe the Raiders, and if it has not simmered down at all. It's still boiling over with me. I'm still incredibly pissed off at the Las Vegas Raiders, the organization, the players as a whole, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole shebang. Still really pissed off. So I will get to that on Friday morning, and so yeah. So be sure to check me out on those shows. You can follow me on X at the Batcave OOTBS. That once again is at the Batcave OOTBS on X. My YouTube channel is at the Batcave _OOTBSE. One more time, my YouTube channel is the Batcave _OOTBSE. Please give me a subscribe if you don't mind. But first and foremost, most importantly, is following and subscribing to Out of the Box Sports on YouTube and X, and their handle for YouTube and X is at OOTBox Sports. That's at OOTBox Sports. That's on YouTube and X. Please give them a like, a follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, and check them out. We have a whole bunch of other shows on here as well, not just my good-looking mug. We have a bunch of other good-looking fellas and ladies on there, and check them out. All right, so that's all I have for today. I appreciate everybody for checking the show out. Thank you for the comments as well. It makes the show flow a little bit better when I have some comments and questions or some back and forths to go over. So I appreciate it. And for everybody else, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Let's go Mets!